Riley Carter awoke with a jolt as the celestial voyage shuddered violently. Alarm bells echoed through the opulent cruiser as he stumbled out of his cramped engineering quarters, nearly colliding with a frenzied stewardess rushing by. "What's going on?" Riley shouted after her, but she was already out of sight. The ship quaked again, and through a viewport, Riley saw a swirling anomaly enveloping the starship. His stomach dropped as the celestial voyage hurtled toward an alien world below. Riley sprinted towards the nearest escape pod, but the corridor twisted and threw him against the wall as the ship broke apart around him. His last thought before losing consciousness was regret for taking this job. He woke to the acrid stench of burning synthetics. Riley's head throbbed as he pushed debris off his chest, coughing through the smoke-filled air. Daylight filtered through the wreckage. He was alive, somehow. Riley crawled out of the twisted metal, blinking in the harsh sunlight of an alien world. The shattered remains of the celestial voyage lay scattered across a barren landscape, with craggy mountains looming in the distance beneath unfamiliar constellations. "Hello," Riley called out. "Is anyone there?" A groan answered nearby. Riley scrambled over a pile of luggage to find an alien woman pinned beneath a fallen bulkhead. Her shimmering skin glistened as she struggled weakly. "Hold on, I've got you," Riley said, wedging his shoulder under the debris. With a grunt of effort, he lifted it just enough for the alien to pull free. "Thank you," she gasped, rubbing her bruised limbs. "I am Alara." "And you?" "Riley," he replied. "Are you hurt?" Alara shook her head. "Nothing serious, but the others." They began searching the wreckage, calling out for survivors. One by one, dazed passengers emerged, all female, Riley realized. The celestial voyage had been a women-only luxury cruise, and as an engineer, he had been one of the few men on board. By sundown, they had gathered 20 survivors from a dozen different species. Riley was the only human and the only male. He tried not to stare at the exotic beauties around him, each more stunning than the last. A statuesque woman with 4 arms approached, her segmented exoskeleton gleaming metallic blue in the fading light. "I am Chief of Security, Kaya," she said, her voice tinged with suspicion. "You are crew." Riley nodded. "Engineering. What's our situation?" "Bad." Kaya's mandibles clicked in agitation. "No distress beacon, no supplies, hostile environment." An unearthly howl echoed from the nearby hills, and several women shrieked in alarm. "We need shelter," Riley said, "and a defensive position. Those mountains look promising." Kaya studied him. "You have survival training?" "2 tours with the Terran Marines before going civilian," Riley replied. "I can handle myself." Kaya's antennae twitched as she considered his words. Finally, she nodded. "Very well, lead on, engineer." Riley organized the group to salvage what they could from the wreck. They gathered scattered luggage and pulled emergency supplies from the intact sections of the ship. A blue-skinned beauty with striking violet eyes proved especially helpful, anticipating Riley's needs before he voiced them. "I'm Serafina," she introduced herself with a warm smile. "I'm a telepath." Riley's eyes widened. "You can read my mind." Serafina laughed, a musical sound. "Surface thoughts only. Don't worry, but they're quite interesting." Riley felt his face flush and quickly changed the subject. "We should get moving before nightfall." They made their way towards the mountains as twin moons rose in the alien sky. The group struggled over the difficult terrain, unaccustomed to such physical exertion. Riley and Kaya took turns carrying those who faltered. When they finally reached the foothills, Riley found a defensible cave entrance. "We'll rest here for the night," he announced. "Tomorrow, we'll explore further and set up a proper camp." The alien women collapsed in exhaustion. Riley tried to hide his own fatigue as he organized watches. Kaya regarded him with grudging respect. "You've proven capable," she said, "but do not think this makes you our leader." Riley raised his hands. "Wouldn't dream of it. We're all in this together." As the others settled into sleep, Serafina approached Riley. "May I speak with you privately?" He followed her a short distance from the cave. In the moonlight, her blue skin seemed to glow. Riley swallowed hard. "I sense your attraction," Serafina said softly, "and your guilt over it. You needn't feel ashamed." "I'm just trying to keep everyone alive," Riley said. "Anything else would be unprofessional." Serafina stepped closer, her hand brushing his arm. Besides, I find your mind intriguing. Riley's pulse quickened. Serafina, A blood-curdling screech split the night. They whirled to see a monstrous shape silhouetted against the moons, bat-like wings spread wider than a shuttle as the creature dove towards the cave. Everyone inside! Riley yelled, shoving Serafina ahead of him. They barely made it as massive talons raked the ground where they had stood moments before. Panic erupted among the survivors as the beast slammed against the cave entrance. Riley grabbed a length of pipe from their salvage pile. "Kaya, with me!" he shouted. Kaya was already in motion, her exoskeleton expanding to cover vulnerable flesh. They met the creature's next attack head-on. Riley swung his makeshift club while Kaya grappled with the beast's razor-sharp claws. Up close, Riley saw a nightmarish mix of reptile and insect features on the creature's elongated head. His pipe connected with a meaty thud, and the monster reeled back. Kaya pressed the advantage, her enhanced strength driving it further from the cave. With a final shriek of frustration, the creature took flight and vanished into the night. Breathing heavily, Riley turned to the huddled group of aliens. "Everyone okay?" Alara's luminescent skin pulsed with fear, but she nodded. "Thanks to you." The others murmured agreement. Riley saw new respect in their eyes, and something else that made him uncomfortable. "That was merely the first challenge," Kaya cautioned. "We must be prepared for worse." Riley nodded grimly. "Agreed. First thing tomorrow, we start fortifying this position and gathering resources. It's going to be a long haul." As the adrenaline faded, exhaustion hit Riley like a hammer blow. He slumped against the cave wall, mind reeling, stranded on an alien world, protector for a group of helpless and distractingly attractive alien women. It was like something out of a sleazy holonovel. "Get it together, Carter," he chided himself. "Lives depend on you." A gentle touch on his arm startled him. Serafina smiled apologetically. "Sorry, I thought you could use this." She handed him a ration bar salvaged from the ship. "Thanks," Riley said around a mouthful of bland protein. "You should rest. Big day tomorrow." Serafina's violet eyes locked onto his. "I feel safer near you," she said softly. Riley's pulse quickened again. Serafina leaned in, lips parting invitingly. Riley knew he should pull away, but after the stress and terror of the day, the promise of comfort was too strong. Their kiss was urgent and passionate. Serafina's cool skin felt electric against his. Riley lost himself in the moment, all thoughts of propriety forgotten. When they finally parted, both breathless, reality came crashing back. Riley saw the other women watching with mixed expressions: jealousy, intrigue, disapproval. "I'm sorry," he said, stepping back. "That was inappropriate. I should." Serafina placed a finger on his lips. "Hush. What's done is done, and I, for one, do not regret it." She sauntered back to her sleeping spot, leaving Riley to sort through a whirlwind of emotions. What had he gotten himself into? The next morning dawned harsh and unforgiving. Riley roused the group early, ignoring his own exhaustion and the curious looks from the alien women. "All right, listen up," he announced. "We've got 3 priorities: water, food, and shelter. Kaya and I will lead search parties. The rest of you start setting up camp. Any questions?" A willowy Aeldarian with feathered hair raised a delicate hand. "What about rescue? Surely someone will come looking for us." Riley sighed. The celestial voyage was off any major shipping lanes. Add in whatever anomaly brought us here, and we have to assume we're on our own for now. Worried murmurs rippled through the group. Riley locked eyes with each woman in turn. "I know you're scared. Hell, I'm terrified, but we will survive this together. Now, let's get to work." As the day wore on, Riley's respect for his alien companions grew. Despite their lack of survival skills, they tackled each task with determination. Even the aloof Arcturian Duchess pitched in without complaint. Kaya proved an invaluable second-in-command, her military background complementing Riley's efforts. By midday, they had fortified the cave entrance and established a clean water source from a nearby spring. Food remained a challenge. What plants were edible? What animals could they safely hunt? Trial and error seemed risky. Salvation came from an unexpected source. Alara's bioluminescent skin allowed her to sense chemical compositions. She quickly identified which local flora was poisonous and which was safe. "Remarkable," Riley said as she demonstrated her ability. "That could be a lifesaver." Alara's skin pulsed brighter at the praise. "I'm happy to help. Perhaps later you could show your appreciation more directly." Riley coughed awkwardly. Let's focus on the task at hand." He turned away only to find himself face to face with Serafina. The telepath's expression was unreadable. "Your thoughts are quite loud today," she said. Riley winced. "Sorry, it's been a stressful morning." Serafina's lips quirked. "Among other things. But do not worry, your secrets are safe with me." She glanced at Alara. "Though perhaps not secret for long." Before Riley could respond, a commotion erupted near the camp's entrance. They hurried over to find Kaya restraining a furious Zeta. The Baljuyan's crimson skin was flushed an even deeper scarlet, her eyes flashing with rage. "What's going on?" Riley demanded. Kaya's mandibles clicked in agitation. "I caught this one trying to hoard supplies. She claims she's eating for two now." Riley's eyes widened as he took in Zera's slightly rounded midsection. "You're pregnant." Zeta wrenched herself free from Kaya's grasp. "Yes, you idiot. And whose fault is that?" A hush fell over the gathered crowd. Riley felt the weight of every alien gaze upon him. He took a deep breath, forcing his voice to remain steady. "All right, let's discuss this privately. Kaya, Serafina, with me, please." As they retreated to Riley's quarters, he could hear whispers erupting behind them. This was going to complicate things. Inside, Zeta rounded on Riley. "Well, what do you have to say for yourself?" Riley held up his hands placatingly. "First, are you certain how far along?" "About 2 months by my people's reckoning," Zeta said, her anger seeming to deflate slightly. "And yes, I'm certain. Baljuyan females are quite aware when conception occurs." Riley nodded, mind racing. "Okay, we'll need to adjust your duties and make sure you're getting proper nutrition." "Kaya, can you?" "That's it," Zeta interrupted, her frustration boiling over. "You knock me up and all you care about is camp logistics?" "What do you want from me, Zeta?" Riley snapped, his own frustration surfacing. "An apology? A marriage proposal? We're stranded on an alien world, fighting for survival every day. I'm doing the best I can to keep us all alive." Serafina laid a calming hand on his arm. "Perhaps we all need to take a step back," she said soothingly. "This news affects the entire group. We should approach it rationally." Kaya's antennae twitched in agreement. "The telepath is right. We must consider the long-term implications. If one female is with child, others may follow." As if on cue, a timid voice spoke up from the entrance. About that." They turned to see Alara hovering nervously in the doorway, her luminescent skin pulsing with anxiety. "I think I might be pregnant too." Riley collapsed into a chair, head in his hands. "Fantastic," he muttered. "Anyone else want to drop a bombshell while we're at it?" Serafina's musical laugh cut through the tension. "Oh, Riley, did you really think you could bed half the camp without consequences?" He glared at her. "Not helping." "On the contrary," Kaya interjected, "this development may be precisely what our colony needs." Riley looked up sharply. "Colony? We're not." The security chief pressed on. "We've been here nearly half a standard year. No sign of rescue. We're establishing agriculture, permanent structures, and now it seems the next generation." A heavy silence fell as her words sank in. The cave had become more than a shelter. It was the nucleus of a new, uncertain society. Over the past few weeks, the survivors adapted to their harsh reality, driven by necessity and Riley's leadership. The discovery of fertile soil in a nearby valley opened new possibilities, and with Serafina's telepathic abilities guiding them, they managed to cultivate a small but promising garden. Yet the recent revelations about pregnancies weighed heavily on everyone's minds. Riley's thoughts swirled with the implications, but he tried to keep a brave face for the sake of the group. Every decision now seemed more critical, every action a step towards an uncertain future. As dawn broke, Riley rose early and made his way to the garden. Kaya was already there, her powerful frame bending over the soil with practiced efficiency. "Morning, Kaya," Riley greeted, stretching his tired muscles. "Morning," Kaya replied without looking up. "I've been working on reinforcing the irrigation system. With the additional strain on our food supply, we need every bit of efficiency we can get." Riley nodded. "Good call. We'll need to discuss expanding our agricultural efforts today. But first, I need to talk to you about the new developments." Kaya straightened, wiping sweat from her brow. "About the pregnancies?" "Yeah," Riley said. "I'm not sure how to address this with everyone. We need to find a balance between maintaining morale and ensuring that everyone's needs are met." Kaya's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "This is uncharted territory for us. You should consult with the others, especially Alara and Serafina. They might offer perspectives on how to handle the situation delicately." Riley agreed. "Right. Let's get some breakfast and meet with the group." As they walked back to the cave, Riley and Kaya found Alara already at the communal table, examining various plants and food supplies. Serafina joined them shortly, her eyes reflecting a quiet concern. "Morning, everyone," Riley said, taking a seat. "We need to discuss our next steps. With Alara and Zera both pregnant, it's crucial we address their needs and plan for the future." Serafina's violet eyes met his. "I believe the first step is ensuring the health and safety of both the mothers and their unborn children. We need to establish a more structured approach to prenatal care." Alara nodded, her bioluminescent skin pulsing softly. "I can help with identifying the safest plants and creating dietary plans. Baljuyan pregnancies require specific nutrients, and I'm familiar with those needs." Riley sighed with relief. "That's great. I'd also like to start preparing for the possibility of more births. We need to consider making additional living spaces and medical facilities." "Agreed," Kaya said. "The cave can only serve us for so long. We need to build more permanent structures. And as much as it pains me to admit, we should start considering long-term strategies for defense and resource management." Riley looked around the table, seeing nods of agreement. "Okay, let's break this down. Alara and Serafina work on the nutritional and medical aspects. Kaya and I will start planning the expansion of our living quarters and defense systems. We need everyone's input on how we can make this work." As the group began to disperse to their tasks, Riley felt a growing sense of camaraderie. The challenges were immense, but the collective effort was starting to forge a sense of unity among the diverse survivors. Later that day, Riley, Kaya, and a few volunteers began surveying the area for the new settlement. They chose a spot on a nearby plateau with a clear view of the surrounding landscape. The site offered better protection and a more manageable terrain for construction. "Looks promising," Kaya said, surveying the location. "We'll need to start gathering materials and setting up basic structures." Riley nodded. "Let's get the foundations laid out. We'll need to build living quarters, a communal area, and a basic medical facility." As they worked, Riley couldn't help but feel a pang of uncertainty. This new world was full of dangers and unknowns, and the responsibility of guiding these women through it weighed heavily on him. Yet, with each step forward, there was also a glimmer of hope. The days turned into weeks, and the small colony began to take shape. Alara and Serafina worked tirelessly to ensure the health of the pregnant women and the overall well-being of the group. Kaya led the construction efforts, and Riley oversaw the logistics and planning. The survivors began to adjust to their new roles, each contributing in their own way. One evening, as the setting suns cast long shadows over the newly built structures, Riley sat by the entrance of his makeshift quarters, taking a moment to reflect. The colony was far from perfect, but it was functional, and it was theirs. Serafina approached, her expression thoughtful. "How are you holding up, Riley?" He smiled wearily. "Surviving. It's a lot of work, but we're making progress." Serafina sat beside him. "You've done well. There's a sense of stability forming here. People are starting to feel like they belong." "I hope so," Riley said. "It's hard not to worry about what comes next. There's still so much unknown." Serafina took his hand, her touch warm and reassuring. "You've managed to bring us through so much already. We'll face whatever comes next together." Riley's gaze met hers, and for a moment, the weight of the world seemed a little lighter. "Thanks, Serafina. That means a lot. They sat in silence, the quiet of the evening wrapping around them. The distant howls of unknown creatures reminded them of the dangers still lurking beyond their small sanctuary, but for now, there was solace in the shared space and the sense of a fragile but enduring hope. As the stars began to shimmer in the alien sky, Riley knew that the future was uncertain. But with each step, each decision, and each moment of connection, they were forging a new path forward, one that, despite its challenges, promised the possibility of a future beyond survival. Weeks had passed since the construction of the new settlement began. The colony on Zeta 5 was steadily transforming from a makeshift camp into a semblance of a community. The initial excitement had given way to the relentless rhythm of daily life: farming, construction, and, increasingly, the delicate task of fostering a new sense of normalcy among the diverse inhabitants. Riley was up at first light, as usual, reviewing the daily tasks and organizing the supply lines. The structure of the new communal area was nearly complete, and the basic medical facility was up and running thanks to Alara's knowledge and Serafina's telepathic insights. The settlement had become a blend of practicality and adaptation, with each individual contributing their expertise. Today, however, was different. An unusual calm had settled over the settlement, and Riley couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to change. He met with Kaya, who was supervising the construction of new shelters. Her usually stern demeanor was slightly softened by a rare smile of satisfaction. "Morning, Riley," Kaya greeted. "We're almost done with the new shelters. Just a few finishing touches left." "Great work," Riley said, glancing at the new structures. "Have you seen Alara or Serafina this morning?" "Not yet," Kaya replied. "They've been working on improving the nutrient mix for the food supplies. You might find them near the medical center." Riley nodded and headed toward the medical center. The small building, constructed with salvaged materials and a bit of ingenuity, had become a hub of activity. Alara was inside, carefully examining a selection of plants, while Serafina was speaking with a few of the women who had come in for routine checkups. "Morning, Alara." "Serafina," Riley said as he entered. "How are things going?" Alara looked up from her work. "We're making progress. I've been able to refine our food sources quite a bit. The new plants are proving to be quite nutritious." Serafina smiled. "And the mothers-to-be are doing well. Zira and Alara are both adapting to the changes. It's reassuring to see the progress." Riley's gaze shifted to Serafina. "How are you holding up? The telepathy must be overwhelming with all the recent developments." Serafina's expression was calm but thoughtful. "It has been challenging, but I'm managing. The collective anxiety and hope are palpable, but I'm learning to navigate it." Riley took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about how to improve morale. We need to find ways to bring everyone together more effectively. The isolation and stress are taking their toll." Alara nodded. "That's a good idea. Maybe organizing some group activities or communal events could help." "Sounds like a plan," Riley agreed. "I'll work on arranging something. In the meantime, let's keep pushing forward with our tasks." As the day progressed, Riley organized a brief meeting with the group to discuss upcoming plans and address any concerns. The atmosphere was one of cautious optimism, but the shadows of uncertainty lingered. During the meeting, Lumina, one of the more enigmatic survivors, approached Riley with a concerned expression. Her iridescent skin seemed to shimmer with an inner light. "Riley, I need to speak with you privately," she said softly. Riley nodded. "Of course. Let's talk in my quarters." Once they were alone, Lumina took a seat, her eyes reflecting a mixture of fear and resolve. "There have been some troubling sightings near the perimeter. Strange creatures. I'm not sure what they are, but they've been circling the settlement." Riley's brow furrowed. "How close have they gotten?" "Close enough that I'm worried," Lumina replied. "I've seen them watching from a distance. They haven't approached, but their presence is unsettling." Riley sighed. "We need to address this immediately. If there's a threat, we need to be prepared. I'll speak with Kaya and the others. We might need to strengthen our defenses." Lumina nodded, her expression a mix of relief and apprehension. "Thank you, Riley. I didn't know who else to turn to." As Lumina left, Riley's mind raced with the implications. The colony's precarious stability was at risk, and any external threats could jeopardize everything they had built. He met with Kaya, Serafina, and a few others to discuss the situation. The group agreed on the need for increased vigilance and fortification. They decided to set up additional watchposts around the perimeter and enhance their defensive measures. Later that evening, as the sun set and the stars began to twinkle in the alien sky, the settlement seemed eerily quiet. Riley stood on the plateau overlooking the colony, the vast expanse of Zeta 5 stretching out before him. The stars provided little comfort, they were distant and indifferent. Serafina joined him, her presence a calming influence. "We're doing everything we can, Riley. We've faced challenges before, and we'll face this one too." Riley glanced at her, a faint smile playing on his lips. "I know. It's just, sometimes it feels like we're always on the edge of something. We build, we adapt, and then something new threatens it all." Serafina placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "But we've built something here, and that's worth fighting for." As they stood in silence, the distant howls of the alien creatures reminded them of the ever-present dangers lurking beyond their defenses. Riley knew that the days ahead would be fraught with challenges, but the strength of their collective resolve gave him hope. The colony had come a long way, but the road ahead was uncertain. Riley was determined to face it head-on, to protect what they had built and to navigate the shadows that loomed on the horizon. With the support of the group and the strength of their unity, Riley believed they could overcome whatever came next. The future of their new world depended on it.